Hey, deep divers, welcome back. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. We love hearing from you.
Always great to be back.
So today,
Yeah.
we're diving into Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden, just days before the election.
Yeah. Talk about a dumpster fire.
This is a time when campaigns are supposed to be all smiles and handshakes, but
Yeah.
not this one.
Nope. Not this one.
So to understand just how badly this thing went south, we need to talk about Tony Hinchliffe,
Oh, yeah. The opening act.
the comedian.
Right. And his brand of humor didn't exactly land with the crowd, or really anyone else for that matter.
So his set was packed with offensive jokes.
Yeah.
We're not talking your average off-color remarks here.
No.
He used some really vulgar language and
Yeah.
racist tropes, targeting Latinos, Black people, Puerto Ricans.
I was a lep.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But one joke that really stands out, and not in a good way, is when he said, Latinos love making babies. There's no pulling out. They come inside just like they do to our country. You can practically hear the jaws hitting the floor.
Yeah.
And that's when the fallout began. The Trump campaign, realizing they had a major PR disaster on their hands, immediately tried to distance themselves from Hinchliffe.
Of course they did.
So senior advisor Danielle Alvarez, who just, is a prominent Latino Republican, issued a statement condemning that Puerto Rico joke, specifically saying it did not reflect the views of the campaign or Trump himself. Classic damage control, right?
Textbook damage control.
Yeah.
Trying to contain the situation as quickly as possible.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the campaign trying to put out the fire. A bunch of high-profile Republicans also jumped in.
Yeah. Like, what was going on there?
I know. So we had Senator Rick Scott, along with Representatives Maria Elvira Salazar and Carlos Jimenez,
All from Florida.
all from Florida, and all with significant Latino constituencies.
Right. It makes you wonder what they were thinking.
I know. They all publicly condemned the rally.
Wow. That's not something you see every day.
Not every day. Republicans breaking ranks with Trump.
It really suggests a level of discomfort within the party, particularly among those who need to appeal to a diverse voter base.
Right, and let's not forget, Florida is a crucial swing state.
Absolutely. These condemnations could have real electoral consequences.
For sure. But the story doesn't end there. We also have to talk about how Fox and Friends covered this whole debacle. The show known for its unwavering support of Trump.
Oh, yeah, their coverage was interesting, to say the least, like a masterclass in cognitive dissonance.
So Steve Doocy, one of the hosts, he actually acknowledged that Hinchcliffe's jokes were offensive.
Yeah.
He even mentioned the Republican backlash.
He did. Wow, you could practically feel the tension in the studio.
Oh, yeah. It was like watching a tightrope walk. But then, in classic Fox and Friends fashion, they immediately pivoted to attack the New York Times for reporting on the racist comments.
Really? Come on.
I know, right? And Brian Kilmeade, another host, actually suggested the reporter was a plant from the Harris campaign.
Oh, so it's a conspiracy now. Typical.
Right. Talk about deflecting. They went from acknowledging a problem to blaming the messenger in record time.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder, they bring on Trump's spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, who claims the crowd didn't mind Hinchcliffe's jokes.
Yes, come on.
Which, of course, contradicts reports that most of his set fell flat and, was met with, at best, indifference. So who are we supposed to believe?
Right.
It's like they wanted to acknowledge the controversy to appease some viewers, but then immediately try to minimize it and shift the blame to protect their chosen narrative. Have their cake and eat it too.
It's a tactic we see all the time, especially when it comes to political events. Acknowledge the problem, then muddy the waters, discredit anyone who calls them out on it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, hey, we see the problem, but don't you dare blame us for reporting on it. And by the way, it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah, it's a dizzying spin cycle.
It really is.
Viewers must feel confused and disoriented.
Yeah, and it raises a crucial question. Is this just Fox and Friends being Fox and Friends? Or does this incident reveal like a deeper strategy at play? Are they deliberately trying to downplay the significance of this rally just to protect Trump's image?
It's definitely something to think about, but before we jump to conclusions, let's zoom out a bit, look at the bigger picture. This rally wasn't just about Hinchcliffe's jokes.
Absolutely not. There were other moments, other speakers that contributed to the overall tone and message.
Okay, so let's talk about those ghost hits. We had Trump supporter and author David Rem calling Vice President Kamala Harris the Antichrist.
And we also had influencer Grant Cardone making allegations that Harris has pimp handlers.
And radio personality Sid Rosenberg calling Hillary Clinton A sick son of a bee.
The level of hostility and disrespect was truly staggering.
It's really concerning because it goes beyond just one rally or one campaign. This type of language, this level of vitriol, seems to have become like increasingly normalized in our political discourse. It's no longer confined to like fringe groups or online echo chambers. It's happening on mainstream media outlets and at these high-profile events.
It really is.
So what does this tell us about the state of our political climate? Is this just the new normal? Have we crossed a line where anything goes, where basic decency and respect for our political opponents has just been thrown out the window?
These are questions we all need to grapple with, because this isn't just about politics, it's about the kind of society we want to live in. Do we want to live in a world where political disagreements are met with personal attacks and inflammatory rhetoric? Or do we want to strive for a more civil and respectful dialogue, even when we disagree?
And let's be real, this isn't just happening on one side of the political spectrum. We've seen examples of this kind of toxic rhetoric from both sides of the aisle. It's a problem that's infecting our entire political system.
Absolutely. It's not about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about recognizing that this is a collective problem that requires a collective solution. We need to hold our leaders accountable for their words and actions, but we also need to hold ourselves accountable for the way we engage in political discourse.
So where do we go from here? How do we start to address this problem and create a more civil and productive political environment?
Well, the first step is awareness. We need to be aware of the problem, recognize the dangers of inflammatory rhetoric, and call it out when we see it, regardless of which side it's coming from.
Right. We can't just sit back and accept this as the new normal. We need to demand better from our leaders and from each other.
Yeah, it all comes back to the power of words. Words can inspire, but they can also incite. And when those words are coming from, influential figures, from people in positions of power, they carry even more weight. Absolutely. And that's why it's so crucial to be discerning consumers of information. We can't just passively absorb whatever is being thrown at us, especially in today's media landscape where information, misinformation, and disinformation are all vying for our attention.
So what can we do? How do we navigate this, increasingly complex and often toxic information environment?
Well, it starts with critical thinking. We need to question everything, challenge assumptions, seek out multiple perspectives. Don't just take things at face value, dig deeper, do your own research, form your own informed opinions.
And be wary of those who try to shut down dissenting voices or label anyone who disagrees with them as like the enemy.
Right. That's a classic tactic used to stifle debate and avoid accountability.
Exactly. A healthy democracy thrives on open dialogue and the free exchange of ideas, even when those ideas are uncomfortable or challenging. Yeah. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. That's how we make progress. So deep divers, as we wrap up this deep dive into the Trump rally and its aftermath, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on all of this? Was the Trump campaign's attempt to distance themselves from Hinchliffe believable? Did Fox and Friends successfully walk back their initial acknowledgement of the offensive jokes? Hit us up in the comments below and let's keep the conversation going.
And as we head into these final days before the election, remember that your vote is your voice. Make sure you're registered, do your research, and cast your ballot for the candidate who best represents your values and vision for the future.
Couldn't agree more. This election is about more than just picking a president. It's about shaping the direction of our nation. So make your voice heard, deep divers.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. If a presidential campaign is willing to tolerate this level of offensive rhetoric just days before an election, what does that say about their values and priorities? Something to ponder as you head to the polls.
Thanks for joining us on this Deep Dive, Deep Divers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.